Standing on the stage of fear and self-doubt, it's a hollow flame, but they'll clap anyway. My body is a cage that keeps me from dancing with the one I love. Oh, who holds the key?
Dear friends and family, we want to warmly thank you for coming to a very unconventional ceremony. We are calling a prelude. A prelude to a beautiful thing called a wedding that starts a wondrously impossible but miraculous thing called a marriage. So, you may be wondering why we're beginning in such a dramatic way. In short, it's to help rethink two dramatic realities of both marital and life factuality: the key and the cage. My body is a cage that keeps me from dancing with the one I love. Have you ever felt that? For me, well, not my body directly, but when you pry open my little chest cavity to the heart of the being inside of me, the parts I want to hide with steel pole titanium doors, but I can see how it affects me. Even the so-called little things. The resentment. I mean, I love you, and you're great and all, but there's just that little bit of discontentment, especially when we exchange those certain words that take on a bitter turn and expose all these solitarily confined, rotting things inside, unleashing a Guantanamo Bay of dormant but ever-present selfish pride, anger, and all the rights I want to hold on to so tight that I don't care if you're hurt this time. But we're just so used to it, induced by it, until our own disillusionment doesn't even faze us anymore. So we all make those jokes about marriage being a life sentence, because frankly, it's hard to know how to hope anymore. We're living in an age that can't really win either way. Marriage is an impossible promise to keep. The roots of the friction between any two people grow too deep, cracking the concrete foundations that our relationships are built upon. But without it, we're left exactly the same roots of the same pride causing pain, but now without even legalities from keeping us going our separate ways. And this is what keeps me up at night. This is what drives me insane. But there is hope. There is hope. There is hope. I swear there is. And I'm as serious can be. Not some existential self-fulfillment BS, but a brutally beautiful, hope-giving key. That God didn't legislate from the sky an executive execution order, or educate us from a distance to cure our social disorders, but He gave a personal embodiment of a true reflection of love that knew a reversal to implement to our capital death for the evil we had done. God put on the prison garments of humanity's skin. Let this sink in. He gave Himself up to the guards, even though it was we who killed our cellmate in the night. And Jesus Christ became more than a fluffy moral teacher, but took on the bite of our cold, blood-soaked steel chains wrapped around tight, being choked so we could breathe, thrown dead into a jail yard grave so we could be free. Acquitted, pardoned, whatever other silly, inadequate metaphor you want to try to grasp at the complete amazingness of what actually happened. It's insane. But Jesus loved us is more than insane. It's a bloody, horrific, and beautiful reality. As He actually historically rose from the grave. As He will actually, historically, raise those who trust Him the same. For them will be with God, who made and knows and loves our souls, and will dance without chains. Oh, to dance with God, to dance with others, to dance with love without chains. But I'm not at that last dance just yet. I need grace every single waking moment. So God, give me a touch on the shoulder if I forget. I will keep on dancing with the one I love. I will keep on dancing with the one I love, for you hold the key. You hold the key. You set my spirit free.
Good afternoon. Welcome again to you all. My name is Chris Wachter. I'm the pastor here at Hiawatha Church, Sam and Eunika's church, at least Eunika's church for one more day. I've known Sam for years. I've been getting to know Eunika much better in recent months, and it's been a true joy getting to know both of them, and especially as they get to know each other better as a couple and witnessing that. It's been a joy, just fun to watch them. And one of the things I love about them is their, this probably needs a little explaining based on what we just witnessed, but their shared values of arts and music. And I think more than this, what I really appreciate about both of them and how much they share this is their shared value of, and I'll explain this phrase in a second, but indirect experiences with the truth. The truth about ourselves, and the truth about what threatens us the most, and what the solution or remedy is. And when we talk about indirect experiences with the truth as well, but indirect experiences with the truth, we're really, in a way, close to talking about God in that moment. Because God himself, more than Sam and Eunika and all of us combined, loves mystery. He loves symbolism, and he loves anticipation. So biblically speaking, whether it's things like light and dark contrasts, or plants sprouting from the earth, or large boats called arks, or sacrifices, or dreams, or clothing, or bread, or water, or travel, or poetry, God creates such things and uses such things to artistically and symbolically reveal to us something about himself. At one point, for example, in Genesis 9, in the early parts of the Bible, he throws a rainbow up in the sky, and he says, "This is a sign of peace between you and me. Look at it." Like a warrior hanging his bow on the wall, because the war is over. The warrior hanging his bow on the wall, so is it between us now. There's no more war, no more enmity between us. I'm making peace with you. So instead of just saying, I'm making peace with you, he shows it, he demonstrates it, he pictures it, he artistically paints it in the sky, and he shows it to us as well. He is what Christians call the God of all creation. The whole earth is the Lord's. It's at his disposal to use, to demonstrate to us the truths that might be more clearly stated elsewhere, prepositionally. The Psalms say elsewhere that the whole earth declares his glory. They tell us something about him. And so like a painting might say something to us about the master painter, so does all creation tell us something about God. But here's what's even better. He doesn't just veil things. God is not just a veiler. He veils things in order to unveil them. His point using symbolism is so that he can later reveal the reality behind it. God doesn't hide. He reveals ultimately. And what's his ultimate revelation, or point, or word? It's always and without exception, whether directly or indirectly, his Son, Jesus Christ. Always. 2 Corinthians 3:14 says in the New Testament, "For to this day, when they read the Old Testament, that same veil remains unlifted, because only through Christ it is taken away." Christ is the veil lifter. In Colossians 1:27 it says, "The glory of this mystery is Christ in you, the hope of glory." So Christ is the one who reveals mysteries. And then again in Colossians 2:2, God's mystery, which is Christ. So the idea is this: even though all things fell away from God in the beginning, though all people sinned and all things became cursed through that sin, God said pretty much right away he was going to come into the world and remedy it all. He's going to right all wrongs, undo all curses, and atone for all sins. He's going to bring light into the darkest of places, but in Old Testament times, before Christ, it was still veiled. He made promises, but it was unclear exactly how they would be fulfilled, until Christ came. Then the wind blew at the fog. The veil was lifted, mysteries were solved, and symbols gave way to realities. Now, one of the most important and clearly referenced symbols in the Bible that we have of Christ and his gospel, which is the good news of our redemption through his blood, is marriage. In fact, what's really fascinating about the Bible itself is that you could fairly call it a book on marriage. Not just because it talks about marriage, but because it begins, climaxes, and ends with a marriage, which is a helpful thing to think about if you're ever stuck reading the Bible passage, ever confused, to think about what it begins with and what it ends with and what the main point of the whole thing is. And the answer to that is marriage. Knowing how it begins, knowing how it ends, helps us not to get lost in the trees. And so if we go way back to the beginning, the biblical theme of marriage, and that we'll call it a Christ symbol of marriage, begins in the second chapter of the whole Bible, with the story of Adam and Eve's wedding. Eve there is called a wife, not just a woman who was created, but is called Adam's wife. So a marriage occurs right in the very beginning. Then after everything turns to darkness and all things fall away from God and sin enters the world, he makes marriage-like promises to sinners. First to Israel, who was a microcosm of the human experience, and then through them to the world. Isaiah 54:5 says, God speaking to Israel, but ultimately to the world through them. For your Maker is your husband. The Lord of hosts is his name, and the Holy One of Israel is your Redeemer. The God of the whole earth, he is called. There's actually an instance in the book of Hosea 2, which is another one of the Old Testament prophets that comes after Isaiah, where God is likened to a husband who stays committed to his wife even after she pours herself out to other men. God is that faithful. He's that radically forgiving. He's that patient. And we're the prostitutes in that symbol, by the way. But again, these things are not ends in themselves. They point ahead to one who would come to fulfill them. These are rich promises, but they're foggy. They're still veiled and symbolic and imperfect, because we can still ask how. How is God going to be like that husband? How is he going to actually redeem or buy us back